what the Spanish brought back from South America. Gold, tomatoes, tobacco, but they also brought something else that people don't realise. They brought an illness, what was later known as the French pox or syphilis. Today, it's a bit of a running joke that people are frightened of the dentist. Well, trust me, in Tudor times, you had good reason to be frightened of going to the surgeon to have a tooth removed. Now, a good example of this is this particular instrument. This is known as the pelican. It was invented in the 14th century by Giovanni da Colli, and this particular one was created by Peter Lowe, an Elizabethan surgeon. So, what we're going to do? Quite simple. Here's a victim I prepared earlier. Now, what you do is, you hook the tooth, well, rather hook the over the tooth, then brace that against the jaw. If you get the right angle, the tooth should pop out, but if it doesn't, I'll probably snap the tooth off, break the jaw, then you probably get an infection and die. So what's the moral of the story? Brush your teeth.
My name's Diane. I've been here just over 4 years. I usually help in the tea room or whatever else is needed really. Today I'm doing hot pork sandwiches.
And my name's Maureen. I've been here 5 years or more, I can't remember. And I work in the tea room or anything they want doing, like waitering, serving or whatever. And we make the cakes. These are all voluntary made, all the cakes. We don't get nothing for them, we make them voluntary and we work voluntary. So all our profits goes to help the Tudor Hall and to pay for events as well.
My name is Arthur George Cox. I'm 87, still singing, because somebody's about to lock on my toilet door. But anyway, I've been a friend of the Haden Hill Park for quite a long time.
A group of 4 of us have cleaned up this room and painted it and polished it, and it's now a heritage room. On the table is a quiz. There's a map of Old Hill as it was in 1900 and 15 photographs, and the visitor is asked to match up the photographs with places on the map. Behind us is an exhibition cabinet, and there are various things in there, including a book dated 1708, which belonged to Thomas Haden, who was living here at that time. Then there's a drawing of the original Rowley Church, which was pulled down in 1840, and a little bit about the subsequent Rowley churches, because the present one is the fourth on the site since 1840. And then next to that is a photograph of the Old Hall and of Mary Bars, the daughter-in-law of the Reverend Bars, who lived here until 1904, when she died here at the age of 90. There's also a portrait of the Reverend Bars on the wall. He was the curate at St Giles's Rowley from 1800 to 1840, and in 1801 he married into the Haden family and therefore became master of the hall. There are also another couple of things on the wall over there, one about the civic history of Rowley Regis and one about Haden Cross, which today is just a sandstone stump about 4 feet high, about 20 yards in front of the studded door of the Old Hall, but which started out its life in the Middle Ages as a tall wayside cross at the top of what is now Station Road.
The most popular instrument of the period, the stringed instruments, was the lute. Here we have a lute. It's a lute guitar actually, this one, a little bit later period, but the lute had a bowl back there, varying number of strings. They were normally in what we call courses, which is in pairs, although the first string was normally single, and you could have anything up to 15 and over 20 strings on the lute. The frets that we see these days, the modern frets now, are metal. Originally they were tied with the same as the actual strings, so that you use the strings and they were tied around there, the gut, to make the frets. And then they always had the early instruments, what we call the centrepiece there. They had what they call the rose in the centre there. Another one of the earlier string instruments was the psaltery, which we have there, the psaltery. And the psaltery varied again in its shape and in the amount of strings. Of course, they didn't have what we call modern plectrums in those days, so they used a quill and that sort of thing to play them. There were various ones, some were shaped like a pig nose, many different styles of those. The psaltery is a very early instrument from very early times. We have here the Rebecca type of instrument, which is the forerunner of the violin, and instead of having been made in separate sections, it was normally a piece of wood that was actually hollowed out, and a soundboard was just put on top, and they varied in the size. As with a lot of instruments, they had the family of instruments, so that you'd have the bass ones, the tenors, the altos, the sopranos, and of course they therefore varied in size. That was a bowed instrument played with a bow. The other string instrument on here is the hurdy-gurdy, which is there. The hurdy-gurdy was a fairly early instrument from the 11th, 12th century, and that. Again, it was a stringed instrument. And we had a wheel there which actually turned and it made these strings vibrate to create the sound, and then the actual notes and melody line were put on with the keys there which were pressed to change the key, exactly the same that you would on a guitar or a violin, changing the length of the string to change the key there.
that's a poleaxe, which has got several cutting edges. You've got the axe head, the hammerhead to cause trauma, the spikes obviously to go through the eye holes on the helmets or the vulnerable places of the armour, and one at the back obviously to protect yourself at the back. This is one of the personal weapons that the personal shields that the archers would have used. It's just a personal weapon. You can use it as a weapon, protect yourself with. And that one is called a falchion. I mean, there's no finesse with a falchion, it's just a big heavy hitty thing that finishes people off when they're at the end of the battle. And when they knock the stakes in to put the spikes on for the horses, they sharpen them with that. It's like a general purpose sword. And that's called a kettle helmet. Because what they would do on battle, they'd take it off, turn it upside down, take the lining out, cook the tea or boil the water, wipe it out, put the lining back, and then they wear it as a helmet again. So obviously on campaign you can't take too much with it, so that used to double up. That's just an ordinary bassinet that they would have used on the archer's line. But obviously the archers weren't in the main battle, they were kept back. They obviously took all the gentry out, and that's called a lobster tail one. But they're all authentic weights.
Oh. Dating back how many hundred years?
Well, from 1400 to 1600 they would have used these.
Really?
Yeah. But don't forget, I mean, they were brought up from youngsters from 8 years of age.
Yeah.
They were built up and they were agricultural workers, so they're quite stuck in and heavy, so they were quite strong.